Hi Sprout Up, it's Bumblebee here, and welcome to the Environmental Extravaganza. So today is going to be a little different from our last few videos, because in this video, instead of a normal lesson, we're actually going to be playing a review game. That's why it's called the Environmental Extravaganza. So we have two amazing MCs, Sunflower and Grizzly Bear. They are going to be asking you questions based on our past lessons, and they'll give you a few seconds to think of an answer. They will also give you a hint, and then you'll have a few more seconds, and then they'll tell you the answer, the science behind it, and the lesson which it came from. That being said, it's okay if you didn't get to watch all of our past videos. They will tell you which lesson it came from, so you can go back and review. Learning is forever, so we want you to be able to have access to these videos whenever you want. You can write down your answers, or you can just say them out loud. You can even do this quiz with a family member. It's super fun. So take it away, Grizzly Bear and Sunflower.
Hi Sprout Up friends, it's Sunflower here, and welcome to the Environmental Extravaganza. So our very first question for you is, the area where an animal lives that provides it with food, water, shelter, and open space is called what? So let's remember, it's a space where an animal lives and it gives it food and shelter and water. So the answer is a habitat. And if you need to review, you can go back to the habitat lesson.
Hey everyone, my name is Grizzly Bear, and today we're going to be going over some of my favorite lessons from the Sprout Up Explores curriculum. The first one we're going to go over is energy. So my question for you is, what are the three types of renewable energy and how do they work? I'll give you a hint. We can also call renewable energy clean energy. So, the first type of renewable energy is called solar power. Solar power is when you take a solar panel, like this one on my calculator, and it absorbs power from the sun and converts it into electricity. The second type of renewable energy is wind power, where you can have a giant steel structure called a wind turbine with different things that spin when it gets pushed by the wind, and that spinning motion can then be converted into electricity for us to use. The third type of renewable energy is similar to wind energy. It's called hydropower. Hydropower also works when you create a spinning motion to create electricity, but instead of a turbine that's being pushed by the wind, you create a turbine that is in a waterfall, and the falling water spins the turbine around really fast, and that spinning motion gets converted into power for us to use.
Alright, Sprout Up scientists, you are all doing super great. Our next question is, what are the three parts of a plant? So if we remember back to our seed germination lesson, we talked about the three parts of a plant. We can also think about the drawing that we showed you of the plant, and there are three parts of a plant that helps it grow. So the three parts of a plant are the roots, the stem, and the leaves. And if we remember, the roots are the part of the plant that helps soak up the water from the soil. The stem helps bring the water up through the plant, and the leaves were like the solar panels of the plant that take in the sun to make energy so the plant can grow, and that's called photosynthesis. And if you need to review that, you can go back to the seed germination lesson, where we also showed you what it looks like when a seed germinates.
Our next set of questions is about our lesson on transportation. So, the first question is, what are three types of public transportation with low emissions? There are many types of public transportation, but three types that we tend to use a lot are trains, buses, and ferries. All of these types of transportation can get us long distances from point A to point B, but are good for our environment because they don't create a lot of emissions. The next question is, what are 2 types of ways to get from one place to another that don't create any emissions at all? These 2 types of transportation are walking and riding a bike, because you can do them as much as you want and you won't create any emissions at all.
All right, awesome. So our next question is, what is one positive thing about a community garden? So if you remember back to our community garden lesson, what were some positive things that we talked about? Or if you've ever been to a community garden, what are some positive things that you can think of after going? So if you said something like, it grows food for people to eat, they're nice to walk through, they're beautiful, or that growing plants is good for the environment, then that is awesome, because that's what we were looking for. And if you need to review it, you can go back to the community garden lesson.
One of the most important ways to be an environmental steward is by using the 3 R's. So my question for you is, what are the 3 R's, and how do they work? So as you might remember from our lesson, the 3 R's are reduce, reuse, recycle. So the first one, reduce, means to use less of. So reducing can mean using less water by taking shorter showers or turning the faucet off when you brush your teeth, or using electricity by turning off the light when you leave the room. The next one is reusing. Reusing means to use something again. Take a glass bottle, for example. You can reuse a glass bottle by filling it with water a second time, the third time, instead of throwing it out after one use. The last one, recycling, is very important. So say you have a magazine or a bottle or a can that you can't actually do anything else with. Instead of just throwing it out to go to a dumpster, you can recycle it so it gets used again.
All right, Sprout Up scientists, you are all doing awesome. So, what are the 3 parts of the water cycle? So if you remember, there are 3 parts of the water cycle. Remember that a cycle is a circle, so it goes around and around. So the 3 parts of the water cycle are evaporation, precipitation, and condensation. Remember, evaporation is when the water goes up into the sky. Condensation is when it forms into a cloud. And then precipitation is when it rains back down. If you need to review that, you can go to the water cycle lesson.
For our next lesson on food webs, the question is, what is the difference between a predator and a prey? In nature, a predator is an animal that hunts down other animals to eat, and a prey is the animal that gets hunted down and eaten. Some animals in the food web can be both a predator and a prey, but an apex predator is the animal at the very top of the food chain that does not get eaten by anyone else.
All right, everyone, so our next question is, what does a plant need to grow? There were 3 things that a plant needed in order to grow and to germinate. So the 3 things that a plant needs to grow were water, sunlight, and air. So if you need to review that, you can go back to the germination lesson where we talked about what a plant needs to grow and where we showed you what it looks like when a seed germinates.
In the lesson, Finding Nature Near You, we talked about the different types of environments that people live in. So what are the 3 main types of environments that human beings live in? I'll give you a hint. They refer to cities, places outside of cities, and farmland, but in scientific terms. The answer is urban, suburban, and rural environments. Urban environments refer to cities, where there are lots of people packed in very tightly, lots of big and tall buildings. Suburban environments are the areas outside of cities, like towns, where there's still lots of people, but everything's a lot more spread out, and there are a lot of houses everywhere. Lastly, rural environments is in farmland, where everything is very spread out. There's a whole lot more nature than there is people.
Sprout Up scientists, you are all doing great. Now we have a question about bees. And the question is, why are bees important? This was a pretty big idea in our bee lesson. Why are bees important? What do they do for us? So, if you started to think about maybe that they pollinate our fruits and veggies for us, they make beautiful flowers possible, or if they make honey for us, then you're definitely on the right track because those are all great things that bees do for us. And if you want to review that, you can go back to the bee lesson.
The next question is, what is an estuary, and why is it important? So an estuary is a body of water where fresh water meets the sea. The Hudson River in New York City is an example of an estuary because it is all fresh water at the top in upstate New York, but it meets the Atlantic Ocean at New York Harbor in the bottom. Estuaries are very important for the environment because they are home to tons of wildlife, like different types of fishes and snails and oysters. Estuaries have water that we call brackish, which means that is part salt water and part fresh water.
Woohoo! Congratulations, Sprout Up scientists, on finishing the environmental extravaganza and following along with all of our lessons. We are so proud of you. You are all stars.
Congratulations! You have completed the environmental extravaganza. Thank you so much, Sunflower and Grizzly Bear. You were amazing MCs. And just remember, you can always go back in this video and look at the names of the other videos that you want to go back and review if you couldn't remember the answers. Now, we wish we could be celebrating with you in person, but we are so happy that you stuck with us through these videos online. You can totally make yourself a certificate at home. Here's mine. We are so proud of you for completing Sprout Up Explorers. What a fun time we've had. You have no idea how much fun we've had filming these videos. You can email us photos of your amazing certificates at education.sproutup.org. Here's props until next time. We hope to see you again soon.